Hello and welcome to this video. And on this video, I'm going to be making 10 predictions for the future of music. And maybe in 20, 30 years, someone might come across this video and they might be astounded at my wisdom in getting everything right and being able to, with my knowledge of music that I have, be able to really predict what was going on. But more likely it will be a source of comedy as people go, oh my God, that's what they believed back then, especially this guy who was an idiot and thought this was what's going to happen. And so I thought it would be a bit of fun. So I've sat down and I've made 10 predictions, but with each prediction, it will be announced by some AI artwork. So I have created artwork that goes with each prediction. That's been created by AI because, of course, AI is going to figure quite heavily on my predictions. But also, at the end, I'm going to give you my prediction of what music will sound like in the future. And everything you hear, the whole piece of music, it's a 6-minute piece of music, was created with AI. All I did was put prompts in, putting futuristic ideas, concepts, and just, experimenting with that until I got something where I'll go, well, that's what AI is giving me. It's AI's prediction of what AI will sound like in the future. So that will be at the end of the video, and I'll create some sort of visuals to go along with it. But they won't be created with AI. I don't know how to do that yet. I haven't got to that point. But I'm using AI all the time. I'm using AI, sometimes ChatGPT. I'm using to create text, although not so much now. A lot of the information on Patreon that I was coming up with in the old days, I was using ChatGPT for. I use AI art now all the time. All my thumbnails on my videos are from that. And any incidental music that happens in my videos, because there's no copyright on AI, is AI. So this technology that has emerged literally in the last few months, I have now completely changed my creative approach to this channel. Now, whether the things I'm creating with AI are creative is another question, and I don't want to get into that on this video, and I have dealt with it elsewhere. At the moment, the creativity when I use AI is in the reason why I'm using it. I'm using it for a creative reason. I'm trying to make a point about the AI. That's how I justify it. And I'm sure creative people will be justifying what they're doing for many years to come. So shall we just get straight in? So at number 10, I have history will determine who we remember and who we will forget. Right, so what does that mean? That's probably the least clearest of my proclamations on this channel, so I do need to explain that. So if we go back 100 years to 1924, and someone said to me, can you name some artists from 1924? I go, 24, we've got, it's hard, that one is. Maybe King Oliver. Fletcher Henderson was recording around about then. Blind Lemon Jefferson, maybe. Charlie Patton, I think they hadn't quite got into the recording studio at that point. Mamie Smith had, and all these people that I would be listing from our historical perspective here are artists that no one had heard of at the time. These are really obscure because in the 1920s, who would be the huge artist in the 1920s? Well, it would have been Rudy Vallée. Or maybe Ivor Novello. Ivor Novello was a huge actor and songwriter and singer. He was a huge superstar. But the biggest star of the first half of the 20th century, right the way through the whole thing from about 1910 all the way up to when he died in 1949, was Al Jolson. Al Jolson was a superstar. Now, we don't readily think of Al Jolson now, right? We don't consider he's had any effect on music. And yet this guy pioneered stuff. He was at the cutting edge of music. He changed the entertainment industry. He affected the recording industry. He sang and spoke in the first sound film. This is a giant, right? So why is that name not coming up? And yet I'm coming up with King Oliver, who no one had heard of. And the reason is because when we look back in history, we look back a lot more based upon the artists of that time that lay the groundwork for the time we are in now. Okay? So in the future, music is going to change. And when they look back to this time, they are going to point out people who actually did things which affected the culture in the future. Now, we can see this happening now. In the 1970s in America, there was a DJ called DJ Kool Herc. He basically invented beat mixing and scratching on two turntables. He basically created one of the major groundworks of hip hop, which has then influenced all like modern music. Now, most kids I know in a music college who are studying the history of music, and a lot of people who haven't will know who DJ Kool Herc is. But I promise you, if you'd gone back to 1978 and start to ask people out in the world who DJ Kool Herc is, they wouldn't have heard about him. So this is what is going on. So my prediction is that when people look back on this time, they will not be calling out the Bee Gees and ABBA and Queen. Those artists will have been completely forgotten, and they will be actually calling out a whole bunch of artists that are at work now and are probably not getting that much recognition, but getting enough recognition to make a little dent on culture. Now, the thing is now you have to do a lot less, right? And so when we look back at the huge bank of history that will be on the internet, if it's still there, then what you will have is a whole collective that people will be searching through. There will be archaeologists that will be going into the internet to find stuff out in 100 years. The value of certain things that are going on now, certain conversations, sort of, messages, photographs will be incredible. And of course, AI will have advanced to the point where the big data, the access to this will be at incredible speeds. And so it could well be the fact that music that is being created now that is at the moment is existing in nowhere on a Bandcamp or SoundCloud somewhere, it's had 7 listens, that in the future, this music that has some sort of ramification in the future on modern culture is then drawn out, and these people are held up, and we have statues and films made about them. And like has happened to Buddy Bolden, a musician that nobody knew of, nobody ever heard record except the people who actually lived in his town at that time. And yet, by the 2000s, he'd had a mainstream film made about his life story, even though we don't really know what his life story was that well. So that's my number 10, right? All the artists we hold dear now, maybe even Elvis Presley and the Beatles, who knows, may be entirely forgotten in 100 years' time. Right. Okay, the next one, number 9. As copyright runs out, the value of this will diminish. Okay, so in the 20th century, the money was made out of selling albums and playing music on the radio. And the way that you earned money, that the big bucks, was through copyright, because you'd written the tune. This gave a slant much more over to writers of music rather than the performance. And it created a whole sort of culture around the music industry. Now, copyright, once DJ Kool Herc started to play one record to another, and then somebody would rap over the top, they would go, "Oh, is this a new record? You got that guy's rapping, that's original what he's rapping, but that's just a James Brown beat that you're just transferring from one to the next." And so, James Brown's lawyers would come along and say, "We need some money for that. We need some money for this." And as sampling grew, so did this copyright the artist tried to grab the money from that, and then people start thinking, well, how can we get around this? Shall we recreate the sample ourselves? Shall we just sample a little bit of it? And then laws come out, you can sample that tune, but you can only do a certain amount of notes. So these things have been chasing their way. People have been trying to move away from copyright, and copyrights, the royalty hunters have been trying to catch it all up. Now, as people die, and their estates get passed on. So now, most of the biggest selling artists in the world are dead. If you think you're a Bing Crosby or a Jimi Hendrix, any of these artists that are still listened to in the great numbers, that those royalties are being passed on to relatives of relatives. It's got nothing to do with these artists whatsoever. The reason why artists are selling up their catalogue for like 200 million is because they will be dead and they realise that they will never be able to recoup the money that is there for the next so many years. Now, the thing is with copyright, it runs out at a certain time. It's roughly, depending on what territory you're in, 70 years. So once something is 70 years old, the copyright goes. And the people who are making music are pushing against copyright. And now AI really challenges the idea of what copyright is. I saw a video where this guy said he got with one of these AI things on, platforms, and he wrote in electric jazz rock fusion hit, and this track emerged. Now, as soon as I say electric jazz rock fusion, I think he said with a Latin influence. I think of Weather Report. How many of you thought of Weather Report at that time? This track's produced, and it just doesn't sound like generic Latin jazz fusion. It sounds like Weather Report. And what I mean by it sounds like Weather Report is that the bass had the sound, the very distinctive sound of Jaco Pastorius. And only Jaco sounded like Jaco. And Wayne Shorter's incredible soprano saxophone sound, which is unique to him and nobody else sounded like, was also in that. So I could see how the algorithm, when you said electric jazz fusion, it basically went, right? It didn't go and scour every single electric jazz fusion album that's ever been made. They made an average of it. No, it didn't. It looked to say, what's the biggest ones? What's the most famous? It's Weather Report. Oh, well, we'll do it like Weather Report. And Weather Report was lifted wholesale. Now, a friend of mine came to see me yesterday and he said, have you heard about Led Zeppelin's new album? And we went online and we found a website, and this website was saying there's this new album called Ascension coming out. It's made by Led Zeppelin and, Jimmy and Robert. And I'm like, and this isn't true. And he goes, well, it's on the internet. I was going, it's not true. And one of the tracks was called Stairway Reimagined. And I said, there's no way those guys would have a track called Stairway Reimagined. So this, I don't believe, was the case. I got home and Googled it, and I found another website saying that there's another Led Zeppelin album coming out, and that had another name that was ridiculous. And I thought, well, yeah, these websites, they can set up, they can say that, they can get traffic, which means they can get advertising, and they can buy a piece of our attention by saying these things. And, no one's checking it, and they come and go, and maybe Led Zeppelin come along and shut it down. But what it made me think was, I thought, at some point, they're going to release a Led Zeppelin album because they don't need those guys anymore to do it. I'm sure you've all seen Led Zeppelin if they were in the 50s. It's all over the internet. How far is it until we await the next Led Zeppelin album? And then once we accommodate AI more and more and accept how incredible it is at doing that job, right? And if you've got producers that are basically, because the only creative action left with AI at the moment is to stand there and it'll give you like 5 options. If you say do something that sounds a bit like Black Dog, but with a bit of put a bit contemporary edge in there, like Greta Van Fleet. Can you do something Greta Van Fleet? I mean, that's like eating your own tail, isn't it? That is. And so you put that in, and then it'll give you 3 or 6 options, and then the producers will go, well, I think that's the best one. AI's come up with the best one there. And so that gathering, that could be done by Led Zeppelin's kids, couldn't it, to give it some sort of authority? You could just imagine this happening. Now, is it going to happen when they're alive, or does it happen when they die? And what happens when the copyright runs out on that stuff? Is it going to be that it's a free-for-all and everybody can start to copy everything? I think in the new age that we are going in, the copyright will be meaningless, basically. It meant everything in the old days when the record companies controlled the in and outs and where it was played and who played it and, distributed the records. When you bought the records, there was a money going in for that specific record that went back to the record company, and when that record was played on the radio stations were all set up. I mean, I could set up a radio station now, right? And put it out on all sorts of different platforms and get around copyright. It's very easy to do. I think copyright won't be there. It'll be a free-for-all. And once that happens, the value of all this music we hold dear, once that's gone, there's no value in it whatsoever. Absolutely. And so what this is going to do, I think, is start to erase a whole lot of music that we hold dear, in that it won't even be around anymore. It won't count. It will be too much hassle to try and keep the Beatles catalogue going when you can just have AI Beatles all day long, right? And basically copy the Beatles. I mean, when are we going to have the Beatles catalogue reimagined, where AI just does the whole lot anyway? I mean, we've nearly had that recently, but why not just get AI to do it and just beef it up a little bit, put a few dance beats in here and there? You can see this idea of ownership will be gone. So that's my number 9. We're on 15 minutes. For carrying like this is going to be 3 hours long, isn't it? Number 8, YouTube will move to AI created content. Okay, YouTube's an incredible thing. And at the moment, I think it's one of the main futures for musicians. It's a way of making money by creating content. And it allows you to sell music to an audience in a different way, which is precisely what I'm doing now. I'm selling music. We're talking about music. We're discussing it, and I'm selling it to you in a different way. And I make some money from the adverts that are played in this, and I also make some money from the donations that come through the tip jar, and I make some money from my Patreon, and that is what I do, and that is an incredible platform. Of course, I could be replaced by AI, and this is already happening. You know that there is so much content out there that you'll click on and then you'll start up and it seems to lack something. A lot of videos, a lot of, this sort of generic voice going through stuff that sounds like it's off Wikipedia. And you think, oh God, why did I go there? Well, that's what's going to happen. Now, those of us who are interested in intellectual stuff like John Coltrane or King Crimson, all the stuff we discussed here, you're probably going to spot that. But you got to remember, most people who go to YouTube are not interested in that stuff whatsoever. They just want something that will occupy their interest. TikTok and Instagram have come in, and then you have the shorts on YouTube. So those short attention span things are very easy. And then what happens is that we have grown up with the 20th century of believing there's a difference between entertainment and art. And that there could be the possibility of something creative happening on YouTube. But for many people, they don't care about art at all. They just want to be entertained. And they will be quite happy to have the experience of going into YouTube and opening it up and there being a channel for them which creates content based upon what they look at. Now, they might be looking at real stuff, but once they start to look at real stuff, right, AI will be able to go, well, if you like that, if you really like fly fishing and you also like the Nazis, here's a documentary about the Nazis who did fly fishing. Oh my God, both did what? This is brilliant. Where's this come from? I just wish it had like a jazz fusion soundtrack. Oh my God, it's got a jazz fusion. So people are going to love their own personalized AI content. And this, I think, will be the biggest change in the industry, which you will see now. I've brought that in. This will now affect everything as we go forward. As I go forward to number 7, which is the 100% of the profits will go to global corporations, right? There's a really annoying thing about the music industry and the entertainment industry is these companies that set up and bang the content out have to pay the artists and the creatives to make it. And the creatives at certain points in time, say, imagine like Led Zeppelin with their manager Peter Grant, was able to really get their neck around the corporation and get virtually all the money for themselves. That, in terms of the entertainment industry, only really happened in the 1960s. Up until then, most artists did get ripped off by the corporations. And if the corporations can rip you off, they will. The fact that we have AI now, we have AI created content, it's like a Pandora's box. So the record companies are going, yeah, we could put that best of out, but really, how can we get it so they're buying this AI stuff? Because we can just churn that out. In fact, we don't even have to churn it out. It'll just create itself. And so their desire, right, because if copyright goes and AI content is now created by the listener, not by the artist, and that's gone, right? Then what happens is you have this entertainment experience that includes music and art and film and video, and that's provided and you pay for it, which is exactly what Spotify wants, isn't it? Is that you've got Spotify, you've got access to everything, and you're paying me $15 a month or whatever it is, and you just get access to the whole lot. And the really annoying thing for Spotify is they have to pass some of that off to the artists. The motivation for the companies to slowly get people used to listening to AI music is really pressing. It's really powerful. And I know you're sat there going, yeah, but it'll never be the same. Because you won't have the creativity there. I think I am going to predict on here how that will be got round. So, because we're now moving to number 6 on my list, which is, I think, going to be the big thing that hasn't quite happened yet. So at number 6, I've got streaming platforms will collapse and change into listener content created platforms. Right. So I think for the listener, there's a lot more fun in going into an AI platform and creating your own music and then judging it and then liking it. And this is how, websites like Udio, if you want to go over there and check it out, and you will get drawn in. I get drawn into it because I love creating music, but the hard sweat of having to play instruments and do recordings and all that stuff is a pain in the bum. Now I could just go over and give it a few bizarre, keywords or whatever, and it gives me 3 tracks in a matter of seconds. And those tracks that I've made, if you go over to my login, they're all there. So you can go to Andy Edwards AI. No one is at the moment because in the end, it's mine. Now, in doing this, I thought the platform was already set up. They know how it's going to operate in the future, right? So the big platforms that we're all signed up to and we're all using, whether it's iTunes or Amazon Music or Spotify. Now, if you look at what's going on, the other day, I ordered a big package off Amazon. So look at how they get you. And I thought, I'm going to pay like 10 quid to get it, sent to me. Why don't I just go on Amazon Prime? So I went on Amazon Prime thinking I would stop it. And then they sent me an email saying you could go and watch the films on Amazon Prime. So I did that. Oh, this is really good. At all these films. I might leave this. And then I had an email. I hadn't even thought about this. It said, you've got Amazon Music. So I went on there. And then I started. Once I got on there, I ain't going to listen to the albums that I have got around me. But what was interesting, I thought, because I've got this sort of mentality, which is why I do this channel, I thought, I'm allowed to have a playlist with 50 on. So what 50 albums would I get? So I started to do this top 50 albums, and I thought once I've got this list, I can actually do a thing on this because it's not necessarily all my favourite albums, because there's a few albums I haven't heard. I thought, I'll put those on. I'll put them because I want to hear those albums. So I start to build this all up. And what's nice is I've got my own little collection there of albums. And the world is my oyster, right? Now, the other day I thought it would be really funny for a YouTube video for me to go onto the AI and create an incredible jazz rock fusion band from the 1972, and invent the name and invent the musicians and use AI to create it all, and then launch it and actually come on here and do some April Fools where I say I've discovered this incredible fusion band and talk about them and the stories will all be bizarre, and then let the audience at the end know that it was all made up and see what they think. But I wouldn't do it straight away. So if I do that in the future, that could be the case. Or it could be that I've actually found a new artist, this unknown artist. But the point is here, can't you see where we're going? If this carries on the way it is, people will have the enjoyment of creating their AI music, of tending to their collection of their own music, of being able to promote their music like an artist and say, do you want to listen to what I like? Right, and picking and choosing other people's music that they like. And they will have their music actually directed to them. They will become the creators and the curators and the listeners, right? And this will just entirely cut out the creative musicians. And I'm sure there will be people that are so brilliant on AI that they are able to create music that everybody likes. And then these AI creators will suddenly emerge, as being the new superstars, right? They won't need any musical ability. They won't need to have any theory knowledge or skill on their instrument. All that at that point will be gone. And once you get to that point, the idea that music was once played will be an archaic idea. It's like, why would anybody want to do that? The same way as when the Industrial Revolution happened and we invented factories, and then we look back and think, oh, people used to make this by hand. Yeah, it would have taken them like 3 weeks to do that. Oh, God, we can do it like 2 hours now. Yeah. Nobody wants to go back at that point, right? And most of the kids who are learning instruments are mostly middle-class kids that have been pushed into it by their parents, and they are reflecting their parents' record collection. This is why I found the band The Warning so interesting. And when I criticised them, when I didn't criticise them, I just pointed this out, that the fan base reacted so aggressively because the fans actually see themselves as surrogate parents to these children. That is what is going on. And that shift, that sense of ownership over art, which is so different to what went before, will be fundamentally the biggest shift. Music as we know it is going to change so great that the things we hold dear will no longer be there in the future. It's always been like that. Number 5, there'll be no large-scale concerts. Why? Who's going to do these concerts? There won't be any large-scale concerts. At the moment, the only large-scale concerts we have are people who are 80 years old, where people want to go there, spend a load of money on a ticket so they can hold their phone up and say, I was in the same room, albeit half a mile away, from Bob Dylan. Right? That's all there is left. New bands who are trying to gig, there's not that much interest, really. 30 years ago, discos and nightclubs took over from bands and they would fill out. And what are you listening to there? You listen to other content that's been pumped through a system. ABBA are back out on tour, aren't they? But it's not ABBA, it's holograms. And as artists and this content starts to emerge, there will be concerts, but the large-scale concert with people actually playing instruments and go through all the hassle of that and all the cost will be gone. There will be no big concerts. The festivals and all those things will still be there, but I don't think the actual concerts will be there. Once you get Glastonbury and rip out the big stage and then start to put some sort of fun fair and wild rides and AI experiences and have these stages where you can go and see the Beatles if you want, and it's like, oh, there's a big audience and you watch the Beatles, that is where we're going to be at. The idea that you want to go through the hell of dragging a band in with a whole bunch of juggernauts full of PAs and cables and guitars and basses and musicians that are off their head because they're, being taken over by their egos, and you've got to try and get them on stage and get them to perform, and then they're not very good because one of them's got a cold. All that rubbish. Why would you want it? It's gone. The companies have found an easier way of doing it. Number 4. This is pretty obvious. Music will no longer be created by trained musicians. Trained musicians gone. We're all gone. We're not needed anymore. They will still be there, but they will be specialists, right? If we look at the things that went on in the past, you can still find people that can, put a horseshoe on a horse, but nobody rides around on horses, so it's not needed, but it's still done. And there will be people that drag out and they go, I play this ancient instrument called the electric guitar. And in the old days, they used to play a tune called Purple Haze, and it went like this, and everyone go, well, it's quite weird, it's quite quaint, isn't it, that music? It's not like what we listen to now. No, it's not really. Did people used to like that in the old days? Yeah, they loved it. Wow, it's mad, isn't it, that they liked that? I wonder what they liked it for, I wonder what they liked about it. I mean, I'm quite interested in it. It's like, that's what'll happen. Trained musicians have gone. I mean, I know this is apocalyptic, my predictions, but I can't think of, I really went through this. And this is what I thought, just extrapolating all the things that are happening at the moment. And I know people are going to be sat there going, no, this won't happen. This won't happen because people will hold on to it. They may do. And maybe that's why I'm doing this, is to motivate people to think, how can I hold on to this thing that I think is valuable? Because in the end, if it is valuable, if what I'm saying sounds wrong because you go, no, but this is really valuable. What the Beatles did, what Led Zeppelin did, Hendrix did, and Duke Ellington, Count Bass, is really, we need to retain it. I'm sure people will look back and think that's great. They won't, though. They won't. I've already explained this. At number 3, the ownership of music, as I've said, will be with the listener. The listener, I've said this one already, but it's a separate thing that I want to get across because this will be the biggest shift. I've got this at number 3 on the list. This is not quite ranking, but it's sort of ranking the effect, the change. So at number 3, we've got this idea that, somebody goes, oh, do you like music? Yeah, I like music. Do you want to see my music? And let's, oh, yes, that's really good. Oh, I can tell it's your music. Yeah, it really tell your personality. How long did it take you to create that? Oh, I mean, that album, it must have taken me about 20 minutes to do that whole album. I really worked at that. Oh, what did you do? Oh, I put like jellyfish in. I put like cream cakes. I put like loud and spiky. And this one came up. Was it spiky? Yeah, when I put the word spiky in, it just sounded amazing. Oh, you did a brilliant job there. Could I have that track? Oh, of course you can share it. Have you got anything that this is where it will be. And there'll be no person going, but I'm the music artist. I'm special. I'm separate from the listener. I'm the artist. I'm really important. You need to respect me and look up to me. I mean, in the 20th century, we were like superstars. We were looked up to, and people went, oh my God, I can't believe I'm even in the presence of the person that makes my music. But they don't care about us anymore, do they? No, they don't. Right? Number 2, really obvious. There will be no real instruments in popular music. At the moment, it's just about hanging on. Real instruments are like a sort of colour. Everyone makes music on computers now. But, you might go, should we have a guitar in it? Oh, that would be cool, wouldn't it? Rick Beato has made a living out of basically going through the Spotify top 10 and going, there's a guitar on that one, and then playing the guitar part, and then he goes to the next one, there's no guitar on that one. This has got a guitar part, it's got a D and an A minor, ding, 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 it's like, well, D and an A, sorry. That'd be more like it. Yeah, so there'll be no real instruments. And we arrive at number 1, and this isn't really ranked, but I think this is going to be the biggest shift, and it's all been in all the way through what I'm predicting. There will be no actual real music artists. Now, I don't know with this listener created thing where at some point people will also start to create artists. Because people have avatars, if they go into sort of this meta world, they can pretend to be like, a space cowboy. They can pretend to be whatever they want. And believe me, the powers that be that are pushing like trans ideology is really, I believe, pointed to the idea of transhumanism, in that we can be whatever we want to be. And I believe the reason that's being pushed is so that we will stay in our houses, put our VR helmets on, and then go out and be a space cowboy and visit, the moon. And play in a band in some bar in space like Star Wars. And that's what you'll do, and that will be your life. When AI takes over, there's going to be no jobs. So for the powers that be to stay in power, they are going to have to sort of block us down to a very small little room. But it won't matter if the room's small, because we just exist into it. Everything can come in from the outside. And then you start to wonder whether that whole COVID thing was just a dry run for it. I can't see how the powers that be aren't thinking like that, because they know that they are not going to be able to sustain the population in the future, because every single job will be done by AI. Every single job. And for many years, I knew this would be the case, but I thought, yeah, but they'll still need creative human beings. I don't know. The problem is, it's not creative human beings that are at the top of that hierarchy thing, is it? This is why I don't like the ideology attached to identity politics, because I can see a way it could be used. I can see a way it could justify, conning us where the actual hierarchy is by persuading us there's another hierarchy, and then us pushing to have that hierarchy fixed means that we actually maintain the real people at the top of the hierarchy, because the top of the hierarchy has nothing to do with those arbitrary identity groups, which really won't matter in the future, because your identity group just won't matter, because you will literally exist online. I can't see how anything else can happen unless there's some sort of revolution where people go, I'm not going to do this, and you get a sort of anarchic wing of people going off grid, where they just pull out all the wires and they just go out and live in a field somewhere. But again, this might just be someone of my age that came up through the sort of new age traveller thing here in the UK. And maybe everything I'm saying is just the predictions of an old bloke using the values. And actually, I haven't got a clue what's going to be happening in the future. I don't know. But it was an interesting thing, wasn't it, to play this game. Now, why is this game important? Because if you are sat there horrified at what I've just said, if you're horrified, it's because you think that there could be a small chance that what I'm saying is going to happen, or even if only 40% of it happens, it's still going to be pretty bad. So what do? We protect music. We value it. We take it and we place it in a place of safety, and we cherish it. That is the answer. And that is what is fundamentally behind this channel. I try and cover not any style of music, but I try and cover the interesting music. We know what that is. And the reason I cover the stuff I do is because I know the critics are not going to safeguard prog and jazz fusion and instrumental music and avant-garde music. They're going to try and safeguard the Velvet Underground and the Ramones and all that stuff. And that is the real reason why I give them a bit of stick. It's not because I really think they're that bad. This is the real motivation behind this channel. I hope to get this channel a big enough sort of place where I can control it and I can keep pushing these ideas. And so some kid can come along and go, this guy's saying that you actually get something out of listening to real musicians play, and it's even better when it's on vinyl because there's no numbers involved. I wonder what that sounds like. I'm actually quite interested about how do you do this. Are you going to have to go out and buy a record player? You're going to have to go out and go to a record fair and buy some vinyl albums? Really? Yeah, that means talking to people, yeah, with all their germs. Yeah, oh, I don't know, but is it worth it? Yes, it is. It is, because there was something of value. And when you throw the baby out with the bathwater, as far as music's concerned, you lose something, you gain something, and you lose something. This is always what happens when we make the shift culturally from one epoch to the next, is that we lose something, right? When we moved to rock and roll in the 60s, we lost something that the Frank Sinatras and the Bing Crosbys and the Duke Ellingtons had. We lost that thing that they had, a beauty that was no longer there. But what is retained, and this goes right back to the very first one, is what history subjectively chooses to retain. So, what's the moral of this story? If you want to save music and make sure that there is a place for real musicians to be creative, like this video and bloody subscribe, because I'm the only hope for music. I am me, right? And I promise you, if I get into such a position of power, like a Rick Beato or one of those types, where I've got 1 million or so subscribers, I promise not to become the despot that you think I'll become. I tell you now, I will not control it for my own ends. I won't put me at the top of the hierarchy and only push my music on everybody, and then all the bands I hate, I won't. I will give everybody a fair chance. I promise it. I tell you this now. Oops, sorry, mate. Oh, sorry, don't know what happened there. Look, I'm going now, But if you want to save it, if you want to help, put a like on this, subscribe, and then if it does go all down, I'll take the music. I mean, they keep saying I'm trying to take jazz. The African Americans in America think I'm trying to steal jazz off them. I am. I'm going to steal jazz. I'm going to stick it secretly in my Patreon. Everyone will be going, where's the jazz gone? Oh, it doesn't matter. Nobody listens to it anyway. I think Andy Edwards has got it. Where's he got it? He's got it stuck in his Patreon. Yeah, the only way you can listen to the jazz now is go over to his Patreon. All of it's there. This is all not true. That was a joke. I'm not going to do that. I'm not really evil. Sometimes I pretend to be evil, but I promise you, I am going to try to do the best for my lovely music that I can. I am the music servant, not the master, and I always will be, because it has served me so well. And I know not to mess with the music because it will have its retaliation. It always does. You have to respect it and love it because it's made out of love. And that love moves from one person to the other person and connects us all together. And anybody who messes with that messes with a karma that will come back and bite them in the bum. Peace to you all. Go over to my Patreon. You can become a free member. If you don't want to do that, you can drop some money into my PayPal tip jar. The link is down below. Thank you for watching this video. And before we go, because we're not at the end now, I would like you to listen to the debut of some track which I've done, and I can't remember what I called it. It has got a title. You'll see it in a minute. And this is music is completely created by AI, and it's AI's idea of what the music it makes in the future may sound like. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.